Belief is the consciousness of time. Time is the appearance of causality. In fact, time is causality. What we call the past is what we perceive to be our causes, and what we call the future is what we perceive to be or predict to be our effects. And the present is a sort of juxtaposition between the past and the future. The present is at the same time the effect of the past and the cause of the future. So in fact, the entire of causality, the entire of time, and thereby the entire of space, lies within the present moment. But people do not realize this because, well, they're too unconscious. And logic is the consciousness of duality or space. That's what space essentially is. Whenever a distinction is made, space is created. Any kind of distinction. At the basic level, the distinction is between the conscious being and the things that the conscious being is conscious of. The distinction between self and the things that are not the self. Between self and everything else. So the principle of identity is basically a symbol, or not a symbol, a representation of the entire of consciousness. The principle of identity represents a belief in logic, and as consciousness is made up of two elements, belief and logic, which exist simultaneously, and one cannot exist without the other. Every belief has to be in a logical thing, and all logic must essentially be believed in. It's impossible to prove the principle of identity. It's impossible to prove A equals A, because if I were to try to prove A equals A, then I would have to make use of the principle of identity itself. I would have to make use of A equals A itself to prove A equals A, but that's not possible. That's not how proof works. So the principle of identity essentially, what it essentially means is that a distinction is made at one point of time, and that same distinction is identified again. That same distinction is made again at another point of time. And a causal relationship is established between the two separate things or distinctions. That's what the equal to sign means. Actually, it means that it symbolizes a passage of time, or a causal chain. So all knowledge depends on the principle of identity. Anything, all theories, all hypotheses, all explanations, everything, depends on the principle of identity. And this is demonstrable by the nature of proof. All knowledge has to be proved in order to be knowledge. So let's say someone asks me to prove that an object is a square. How can I prove it? I'll have to show that the object is a two-dimensional object with four sides of equal length. So the fact that the object has two dimensions and has four sides of equal length proves that it's a square, because that's the definition of a square. So what I'm actually doing there is I'm saying that the definition of the square causes the square. That's probably the origin of the word because. It's because. So the square is, this object is a square because of so and so reasons. This can be applied to anything. All truths are basically demonstrations of causality or causation. So logic and belief are really inseparable from each other. But what I mean by belief here is not the same as what a Christian would probably mean by his belief in God. What a Christian means by his belief in God is simply a sort of emotional attachment, and this also goes for people who believe in love, believe in sex, pleasure, delicious food, whatever. People have a lot of false beliefs. Even atheists have innumerable false beliefs. In fact, atheists have as many false beliefs as Christians have. But they're simply supported by, or they think that they're supported by science. So that makes them probably a lot more, nosy and a lot more confident. But anyways, what people mean by belief is simply an emotional attachment. They don't mean any kind of consciousness, because people are not conscious enough to understand what belief actually is. They just borrow the concept of belief from the great men who have talked about belief, and they simply interpret it in their own way. So what a Christian means when he says, I believe in God, or I believe in the Trinity, is that he's emotionally attached to those concepts, and this emotional attachment can be formed due to various reasons, not the least of which is upbringing, environment. The person sees that everyone around him is like worshipping God, respecting the priest, the Christian priest, and so on. And so he thinks, well, everybody's doing it, so I'll do it too. The woman